The freeze is here, and each night the garden gets a little colder. Any plants we want to save have to be covered before sunset and uncovered again in the morning. After a few days, that becomes a tiring chore. That's our sign that the garden season is coming to an end and it's time to pull things out. Some people like to leave their gardens for spring, but cleaning now has big benefits. It helps stop bugs from hiding in old plants, keeps the soil healthier, and makes spring planting much faster. Plus, it feels great to look outside in winter and see a clean and peaceful garden instead of dried up vines and messy beds. So today, we're going to show you how we clean the garden and pumpkin patch before the winter settles in.
Pulling out, we had squash and some cucumbers in here. As you can see, the dogs have been here. We've had some gophers in this area, and they dug up a nice rock for us, which is so lovely. But what I wanted to show you was in this sagebrush, if you will, are spaghetti squash. There's several down here and a few there, and they're just hanging there. They vined that far, so now I got to pull out the weeds to get to the squash.
Let's start by talking about cleaning up the vegetable garden. At the end of the season, most of the plants are dry and they're finished, just like these squash plants here. So we're going to pull as much of the fruit off as we can that we can still use. The squash we'll pull green tomatoes and allow them to ripen up on their own. Any beans we might have left over or sunflowers, we'll pull those so that we could save the seeds for planting next year. Then we're going to remove the plants, whether they're dry or frozen, or sometimes they're just getting old, like green beans. They just kind of get old and they stop producing. We're going to pull those all out of the ground, off of the trellises, out of the tomato cages. We do not leave them in our garden. Now let's talk about why. A lot of people make the choice to leave their plants in the garden to help nourish the ground and protect the soil, to give wildlife somewhere to live. But for us, where we live, pulling the plants is actually really important. We have a lot of pests because we live in a high desert. We have squash bugs, we have gophers, we have all sorts of different animals and bugs that come to eat from our garden. And what ends up happening is that the following year, we actually have more of a mess to clean up than if we just clean it up now and everything's nice and clean. Plus, it helps us to be able to plant quicker in the spring without having to spend extra time getting rid of old plants and taking care of this area. One of the other things that we always do is we pull our water lines. We make sure to have them drained or blown out, making sure that the freezing temperatures won't crack those lines and ruin them for future use. And once they're empty, we can store them away or leave them somewhere so that they can be used the following season. So having a neat and tidy garden is just one way that we can expedite the planting process in the spring. So now that the vegetable garden is done, let's head to the pumpkin patch.
I am out here in our pumpkin patch, and today we are starting the process of pulling some of our pumpkin vines. So if you followed along, you kind of know our pumpkin patch a little bit, but this area on this side of the pumpkin patch is all our colored and specialty pumpkins. And then on the far side is our jack-o'-lanterns, and you might be able to see some of those peeking out all of the orange. Our specialty pumpkins did really well this year. All the big ones are gone except for a few that pop up here and there that are kind of hidden. And so the goal in pulling those pumpkins is, one, to find any of the leftovers in hopes that people can find them and buy them so that they can decorate their porch or their home for the fall. The second reason that we're pulling all our pumpkin vines is answer to a question that a lot of people have. is why do you do it? Why do you pull your vines? Why not just leave them over winter, let them set in, give that organic matter to your soil? Well, for us, it's because of squash bugs. When you run a pumpkin patch, especially the size of ours or larger, you're gonna have squash bugs no matter what. You're gonna have powdery mildew no matter what, but you try and do as much preventative measures as you can. And for us, that is pulling all of our pumpkin vines and burning them in our burn pile. So our burn pile is just kind of up the hill up there. So we fill our wheelbarrows with the pumpkin plants and wheel them all the way up there. Sometimes we'll pull the trailer in, fill the trailer, and move it up. So that's really why we do it. It also is a nice way to end the season. Then the pumpkin patch area is nice and clean and we can plant next year. Now, another way to help prevent squash bugs is by rotating where you do your pumpkin patch. So this is actually the second year we've done it in this area, and we are considering moving it for next year. But as of right now, things are looking good. So we'll just kind of see at the end of the season, once we pulled everything, how it looks.
Our pumpkin patch is a big job to clean up. To start, we will pick the pumpkins off the vines. So as I'm pulling vines, I will pull the pumpkins. No matter the size, no matter the situation, they get pulled. And since we sell our pumpkins, we put them in our farm stand until the end of the season. And we were actually really lucky this season and sold out of all of our pumpkins before Halloween even got here, which was really great. But if they don't sell, we will save those pumpkins and the animals can eat them. Sometimes we might save them and overwinter them for eating ourselves, or we just use them as decoration through the fall. But once all of the pumpkins are off of the vines, then we start pulling the vines. And I typically do this in sections just so that I can get a section done and I feel like I've accomplished something. We do not leave our vines in the patch because we have such a big patch. We have squash bugs all of the time. And squash bugs will hibernate through the winter. If you leave the vines, they will live in those dead vines and they will make their nice little habitat. And then next year, you'll have squash bugs even worse, and your plants just can't survive. So, by pulling the vines now, we can help prevent those squash bugs, and then we don't have to use strong chemicals later in the following season to kill the bugs. We can have a much more organic and healthy pumpkin patch because we don't have the bugs. So I will load the vines up into the wheelbarrow and then we will take them up to the burn pile. And then sometime around Thanksgiving, we will burn that burnt pile. Once we have pulled all our pumpkins and all of our vines, we will start to pull up the plastic. Now, we use plastic because we live in a high desert and we have really high weed tolerances here, and it just has been a mess for years. So, we finally decided this year to do plastic and we use wood chips, and that has been a game changer for our pumpkin patch. But we do not want to leave the plastic through the winter. The cold and the sun will break it down into tiny pieces, and then we'll have all these microplastics, and those pieces will be in the soil. So we want to remove it as best as we can to help prevent some of that in our soil. So once the plastic is all pulled, Then we will also pull our water lines. And our water lines really are easy once you get the plastic up, because the plastic has helped prevent those weeds from getting tangled up into the lines. And so that's another benefit for us of having plastic down. It pulled up really, really nicely this year because we had those wood chips that kind of protected it from weeds as well. And then we'll pull the water lines and we line them all up together, and we will roll them onto a wood pallet and keep that wood pellet nice and stored well for the winter months. And once all of those vines, plastic, and water lines are gone, the pumpkin patch is going to look so clean and tidy. We can bring the tractor in, we can till up the soil, we could add compost, we can add crushed eggshells and any other natural items that we want to feed the soil through winter. And that helps the earth to rest and help build nutrients for next year's pumpkin patch. And just like that, our garden and pumpkin patch are ready for winter. Cleaning now really keeps away bugs, keeps plastic out of the soil, saves us a ton of time when spring comes around. It also feels really rewarding to look outside and see everything neat and peaceful and clean. And now that the garden is resting, the only thing we really worry about during the winter are our chickens. We can keep their water clean and unfrozen and make sure they have fresh bedding, give them good food, and we don't have any other worries because the property is all set for spring. Well, I hope this video was helpful for you. Let us know if you have any questions on why we might do something or how it might benefit you. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.